To appear on the Australia Post Legends stamp series, to both of you, maybe start with Maggie first. How does it feel to be on a stamp?
Well, when we saw the really big stamps in the foyer, we thought, oh my God, that's really confronting. But little is, look, it's really quite mind-blowing, and I just hope that something other than bills would come to me with my stamp on it, and everyone will write letters. But to be part of the 5, 4 women as part of the 5, after who has gone before us, those that have gone before us, is just, it's wonderful, really wonderful.
I can only imagine. It must be interesting. Stephanie, what's it like to see yourself when you first heard that you were getting the honour and then saw the stamp?
Well, I feel a bit like Maggie. It is very confronting finding yourself in a large stamp out there, but it's tremendous honour. I am conscious of the honour, and I also feel that it's a wonderful group of people and very representative of eras and the things that we've all lived through and worked through, and I'm very proud.
Yes. Now, you've worked together on your Tuscan cookbook, travelled together and worked together, written together. What was the experience like?
You go first, Maggie.
I don't know what that means.
We separate our duties. We're both very headstrong, and we love the same things, absolutely love the same things. But when we were in Italy, which is so long ago now, but there's a natural division that happens of things that come easiest to each of us, and so we complement each other.
I think that's right, and we made some wonderful friendships. We affected people's lives in quite major ways. We had a couple who left two women who left their husbands as a result of...
Now that's not the good things that happen.
It was a memorable experience for a lot of people, including us.
So it was an adventure, that's for sure, by the sounds.
It was.
Now, having travelled through, obviously, Italy to do the book, what was it like, I guess, realising what your favourite parts of Australia are? Getting back home is always an amazing thing to do. What are your favourite parts of being Australian, I suppose?
Well, I must say I do love Australia. I had the opportunity the other day of driving around with my English cousins and suddenly having that sense of seeing Australia through their eyes. It was 43 degrees, everything burnt to a crisp, the gum leaves hanging down. And I thought, I really love this country, but I could tell that, they didn't get it.
They want green.
It is a very, very special environment, and I'm extremely proud to be Australian.
The cool change is on the way, from what I've heard as well. It's thank for that, everyone. Maggie, I suppose, setting up in the Barossa, you must have a really interesting look at the way Australian life is. What do you perceive it as?
Well, I think in the Barossa we've got quite a unique way of life, I think, in that we do live the rhythm of the seasons, because so many of those in the Barossa, they're farmers, they're growers, they're not self-sufficient, but, there's that background of innovation and strength, and that's very strong in the Barossa. But I thought what Tanya said today was so right about Australians in general, in that way that we can say what we mean and not be frightened and be collaborative and all work together, as we in the food industry, we do in our way. If we have an issue or a problem, we've always got people that might otherwise be competitors, but we never see it as that. And so I think that is a very Australian trait, and I'm very proud of it.
Have you obviously seen the way food culture has changed dramatically, I suppose, in your time?
Oh.
We're now a country of gourmets to a certain extent, aren't we?
Have we ever? We started in this week, and let me see, January 1979, you can do the maths, Cole, a long time ago, and in the Barossa in South Australia, it wasn't as developed, I think, as in the eastern states. Stephanie was already running with great food, and we took longer to make it happen here in some pockets, but we've seen this exponential growth of good food, and because Neil said on his little clip, he said, because Australians demand it, restaurants are so good. That's one point people are travelling so much, they demand it. We grow such amazing produce, so the chefs have got so much to work with. It's been a wonderful journey.
And through your cookbook, Stephanie, I suppose people don't just go out now for a terrific gourmet meal. They sort of demand to cook it themselves.
Well, I must say my particular hobby horse is it's very important whilst we laud our wonderful restaurants, and we do, and I love them, and I go as often as I possibly can. But we must remember that for most people in the community, they are not eating in restaurants, they're eating at home, and they're raising families, and they have a responsibility, I believe, to introduce the new generation to all the excellent freshness and seasonality and appropriateness and so on and so on. Hence my missionary zeal at trying to introduce programs in schools so that every Australian child that wishes to, or from the school that wishes to, can actually introduce a program that's part of the curriculum. So the child will learn on a weekly or fortnightly basis about growing, about harvesting, about tasting, about being with other people around a table, and that has the most incredible impact, and very, very quickly.
It's not just the meat and three veg anymore on the dinner table, is it, when you talk about that? It's completely different.
Those children in schools, and South Australia is shaping up actually to have more schools than any other state in the country at the moment, as your state government has just made a wonderful offer to increase the number of schools in South Australia. And those kids, they would astonish many of you as to what they are comfortable and able to produce, to understand, to grow. I hope too many of them don't come back to completely crisped school gardens in 2 weeks' time after this little interlude.
Moving on, I guess, Maggie, you were named Senior Australian of the Year for a lot of your work, an amazing career that you've had and things that you've done. What was it like reflecting on that when you were given that honour?
Oh, well, I mean, it's hard to top one amazing thing after another, and it was mind-blowing and just so proud, but it just opened my eyes to an awful lot of things as well, and I met amazing people as I travelled around Australia, and that honour gave me another platform a journey that I'm on right now and have been since 2010. And like Stephanie, everything we do has to be related to food, it seems. And for me, it's trying to change the culture of food in aged care. So it would never have happened, I don't think, if I hadn't have been made Senior Australian. Not that I realised I'd become a senior because I'd been far too busy, but just that very thing of having the platform and seeing the need.
That is something. We obviously are an ageing population. How is that going, trying to get that message through about aged care and food?
Oh, just watch this space. There's an awful lot. Like Stephanie with the Kitchen Garden Foundation and what she has done, I'm only just beginning, but there's a lot of activity and a lot that I know I can make happen with a whole lot of other people. And but it's not the people of our age that will go into aged care I'm concerned about, because as baby boomers or older, we have a very strong voice, and we'll need a different kind of care. It's the people that are in there now without a voice. They're the ones that I'm concerned about.
Australia's identity is very much of mateship and larrikinism. That's certainly what it's always been in the past. Have you noticed it change, I suppose? What are our qualities now as Australians?
Well, I just think that the thing that is impossible to avoid, and thank goodness, is the actual diversity in our population. So I love it. I love the fact that you can't any longer say there's a traditional or a typical dish or this, that and the other. It's nonsense. We are so many different people who live amicably together in this country.
Has that helped the way that you cook, I suppose, having that multicultural society?
Well, It does to some extent, but I am obviously a product of my own background, of my own preferences, of what grows in my garden. And I think that's what every one of us can be saying. If we've got a Greek mum, we're going to have certain things that are very important to us, which we understand very well. I had a grandmother who came from Yorkshire, so there's a few things that I understand very well that probably nobody else had been the slightest bit interested in trying or knowing about. And I think we must call on the strengths of our culture.
Maggie?
Well, I guess the great luck in my life was meeting Colin and coming to live in the Barossa, he being a near Barossa boy, because the Barossa has given me so much in just coming into a rich culture, that true Mediterranean climate I talked about, and that sense of community and belonging. And I belong and I am connected, and therefore I am very lucky because of that. And my cooking, of course, is influenced by exactly what I grow, what our valley grows, but also what South Australia grows and beyond.
Just talking about the typical Australian dish that doesn't really exist anymore, what is your favourite Australian dish, or a dish in general, I suppose, because, I think spaghetti bolognese came up as the top family favourite in a poll the other year.
Yeah,
so.
I just find it a sort of brain-stopping concept, because it will depend wherever I am. As it happens, I will be spending Australia Day with friends, and we will probably have a barbecue, which I believe is a fairly typical thing to do on Australia Day. But it's also a pretty typical thing to do on any lovely summer's day when you're with your friends. So we probably will have lamb.
It's a good choice. But it don't have to have lamb is basically what you're saying.
No. Could just as easily have been fish if we were somewhere else.
Maggie, Australian dish, what would you cook above anything else?
Well, I guess it's an interesting question, and we often get asked and we think, oh my gosh, what a question. But Philip Muscat in the late 1800s, when he wrote Art of Living in Australia, talked about that at the time, 1895 or somewhere around that time, not good with dates, he talked of the concept of an Australian dish was a pie. Look, it still is in some places. But he talked very strongly about the way he saw his vision for Australia was working with the climate of wherever you are. And he said if there was to be an Australian dish, to him it would be a salad. Now, I'm talking about this climate right now, this heat wave. You asked me about an Australian dish, a most beautiful salad. That's as far as I'll go.
No, good answer. I like it. Moving on, I suppose, it depends on whether you're a sweet tooth or a savoury tooth. Vegemite or Tim Tams? What's
Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Trifecta up here, I'd say Vegemite, most
yes,
definitely.
Absolutely.
I do like seeing the faces of tourists when they try it for the first time. Thank you very much, both Maggie and Stephanie, for your time
Thank you.
this afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Big round of applause.
Thank you very much.